Oh, the weather outside is frightful.
But inside is so delightful.
It's Christmas in July.
Let's review.
Let's review
Let's review.
You
And me.
Season
Season 3.
3.
Bomb. Hey, what the hell? This isn't July, it's August. Hate, dislike, unsubscribe. Yes, folks, I'm sorry. I am very sorry. This Christmas in July, this is the first time we've had to extend it one day into August because of an unforeseen flamely emergency I had last night. But I digress. One day into August, we are back. We're doing the penultimate of Christmas in July, which is this episode right here. And then we'll also be recording the final episode of Christmas in July 2016. But you know what show does not let you down when it comes to scheduling conflicts, BlueDragonFive?
Please enlighten us.
It's the Movie Machine Podcast! It's what happens when you take four funny people and improv a movie based on a random story generator really, really fast. I mean, how do you like that? Episode 22 just dropped yesterday. It's called Agent Bibanaki, and it's a race to slave off the Selenidation of Lake Superior, starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Jessica Alba, Paul Giamatti, and Byung Hung Lee. And I am just butchering the names there, but I digress. It's basically a conservation thriller starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson, aside Paul Giamatti, with Jessica Alba's. It seems like there's plural Jessica Albas, so maybe there's Jessica Alba clones involved. Who knows? That could be a thing. Featuring Ben Lifson, Kyle Decker, Jacob Gulliver, and this week's special guest, Kara White. Don't miss it on the Movie Machine Podcast at hotchocolatemedia.net. All right, BlueDragonFive. All right, so we're in Festivus mode. We're in the make-believe holiday mode as we cover Seinfeld, a Season 9 episode simply titled The Strike. Now, BlueDragonFive, I'm going to go ahead and take this stick right here, and I'm going to head and give myself an airing of grievances on myself for not having the episode up in time. So, bad Tiki. Bad Tiki. That's a bad Tiki. It's August. You don't do Christmas in July in August. Bad. All right. That was awkward.
Well, okay. Maybe that's not harsh enough. Maybe I should just add a little bit to the tail end here. You have killed Christmas in July. You put the red bulb and you've bent it, therefore killed it. You have failed Christmas in July, you disappointing sack. You. Okay, we're good.
I deserve that. All right. So we're going to get through it. I really enjoyed this episode a lot, BlueDragonFive, so let's dive into it. So how do we start it, BlueDragonFive? Who is our special guest star?
Well, shouldn't we, talk about some Seinfeld generally before?
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right, because we haven't really talked about Seinfeld. I'm excited to get, can you blame me for being excited about our special guest star? Can you blame me?
Of course.
Okay, so Seinfeld, for me personally, Dragon, it wasn't something I was super into as a kid. It's more so something that I kind of like as I matured and as my humor developed, I kind of got into just through syndication, on TBS and stuff like that. It's never something that I was really that into, but it's always something that's very reliable. It's, of course, become one of the most popular syndicated shows because it's comfort TV. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a great premise where you don't need to know that much about any of these characters because, as George says famously, it's a show about nothing. Anything can happen. These characters are basically just kind of blank slates for wacky situations. And I think the show works well in that regard. I don't like the show as much as something like Friends. I know most people like this better than Friends, but what can I say? I just have a lot more nostalgia for Friends. And I honestly find the characters on Friends to be a lot more likable as well. But having said that, BlueDragonFive, definitely a solid show, definitely earns its place in the history books. Just wasn't necessarily my cup of tea.
As I have a lot of fondness for Seinfeld. I mean, it goes back a long ways. I remember my first episode, oddly enough, was the last episode, which luckily kind of summarized the whole show in it. But yeah, I watched it from the beginning. Oh my god, loved it. I love Larry David also because of my love of Seinfeld. got the Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is kind of like the most meta experience ever because it's a show about Larry David, the creator of Seinfeld, living in a world where, okay, yes, he did in fact create Seinfeld. And point is, Seinfeld was always like a fun premise, got some great comedy. There's some excellent writing on the show. Again, much in the same vein of just kind of weave a little interconnectivity here, folks. Much like Everybody Loves Raymond, Seinfeld derives a lot of stories from real life. And for Seinfeld, it's not exactly writers. The writers of Everybody Loves Raymond, it's like literally kind of people have lived those experiences. And Seinfeld, it's heavily inspired by real life situations. Of course, there has to be some sort of dramatic tweaks here and there to kind of fit in like what specifically your characters who are tasked with the story would do. But for the most part, it's like based on experiences, or definitely it's always inspired by real life things.
Okay.
And it's got a lot of fun this forward. Let me just kind of set the stage for where we are in Christmas July, because sometimes we kind of jump into different seasons with these shows. So we are in season 9 of Seinfeld. This one's like the last season of Seinfeld. They went out on a high note at 9, which was a smart move. And you'll notice at this point, Larry David, the main showrunner, he left at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He left after season 7, which then it all fell on Jerry Seinfeld. Don't get me wrong, seasons 8 and 9 were fine. They were some really funny, distinct stories as well. But you can kind of tell, like season 9, they're starting to. It's not lacking in quality. It's just you're kind of missing a little bit of that spark, but also it's kind of, you can tell they're on the cusp of running out of ideas. Like they still have some good ideas, but they're just about to run out. So again, they left at just the perfect time, and this is one of those where you can kind of tell characters are kind of like Elaine. Mainly, Elaine is the most obvious in that you can tell Elaine's kind of running out of steam as a character.
Elaine's running out of steam, and I also think there's a storyline in this episode with the girl that Jerry dates that I think it just would not fly over very well at all nowadays.
Yeah, because thankfully, Seinfeld's show the formula never really got them down, but you can tell in these last 2 seasons, mainly this season, is when they're starting to call themselves. And again, it's kind of funny when you think about it. Season 9 was them calling themselves, we're kind of running out of ideas. Like,
Exactly.
They're pointing out, like, Jerry, you break up with a girl every week. They're starting to kind of become self-aware by the last season, which is pretty funny. And again, I think Seinfeld really holds up really well for me. I will say this, at times they almost bridge an unlikable to the point of not being entertaining, but I mean, that's rarely the case. I say Elaine's the only one usually guilty of that for me personally.
Elaine has always been my main problem with the show, to tell you the truth. I mean, I don't necessarily mind her. She's not like one of those characters where it's like, oh, I can't stand Elaine and therefore I can't watch Seinfeld. It's just, for me, it's like, you gotta love, I think by far the best character on the show is Jason Alexander. I mean, I love George to death. I think, I just think there's so much to that character. He's so nuanced, and of course you've got that mixed with the off the wall Kramer, and then Jerry kind of is the everyman. He's fine.
It is an ensemble cast of very talented
people.
Let's give them that.
And of course, people like Wayne Knight. Of course, rotating cast of guest stars.
Again, of course, our guest star in this episode, without giving it away, could you excuse me one moment, please?
Sure. So, okay, so yeah, without giving away the guest star, folks, it's a big one. It's someone that Dragon and I hype up quite a bit. So, I don't know. Like we said, I think the thing with Seinfeld to me, as a kid, I just didn't quite understand the humor of it. It was just kind of like it went a little over my tongue. Over my head a little bit, and I felt that it was mostly conversation based, which it is. I mean, Seinfeld is a very dialogue driven show, and so that's a funny thing for me in general with film, where as a kid I would love like these very, very exciting cerebral action movies like Jurassic Park and stuff like that. As an adult, I got into movies with very dialogue-driven formats like Clerks, My Dinner with Andre, stuff like this. And I feel like Seinfeld definitely kind of fits that Clerks, My Dinner with Andre kind of mold, where really at the end of the day, it's just kind of people talking and not much else. And I think one of the big things that makes Seinfeld unique and that makes Seinfeld stand up, Dragon, kind of like you were saying, is that really it holds up so well because it's the premise. It's like you can do anything with it. And I feel like that's why the show has lasted. Like, I feel like the legacy of Seinfeld definitely is in the fact that it's like you can syndicate it anywhere, anytime, and it's always an agreeable thing to just sit down like, oh yeah, Seinfeld, that sounds like an agreeable show.
And
Right
absolutely,
on.
I mean, you're right. It is comfort television in the best way. It's it's
Totally,
it's some
totally.
snappy writing, and it's a lot of fun. You can sit down, even if you're laughing at jokes you've seen before, in that you've seen the episode so many times because you've watched it on a loop so many times. In my case, but yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the episode. So we start with one of my favorite Seinfeld guest stars. The first time I ever saw this actor, which is where everyone's going to point you to another show this guest starred, and this is my first introduction.
Right,
Well, not
right.
this episode. I'm just saying this show was my first introduction. He reoccurs, Tiki, so he's not. This isn't just like a one-off. He is.
I figured.
Like a semi-regular. He's like kind of the highfalutin. Not, I'm sorry, not. I don't keep saying highfalutin. At least that's usually me saying highfalutin because he's a very successful guy in the Seinfeld universe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's without further ado. So we're at a Christmas party, not just any Christmas party, a Christmas party hosted by dentist slash orthodontist, however you want to go by that, Dr. Tim Whatley.
Yes.
Played by the incomparable holiday guest star who we have named
Bryan Cranston.
Yes, and I tell you, I completely forgot when we were watching this. It's been a while, and you kind of commend the memory. Is you know Tim Whatley, Bryan Cranston. It's I kind of forgot. Like, oh my god, yeah, they had a Christmas party with Tim Whatley's on this one.
Sure.
Completely forgot. So it was a jolly little surprise. Hey, the wonderfulness of Bryan Cranston playing kind of the. Now, Tiki, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. How familiar are you with Tim Whatley?
Not very much at all, to tell you the truth.
This episode's a good one. It kind of recaps one of the most memorable things about Tim Whatley. He had a hilarious episode where it's not exactly a Christmas party. It's kind of a Hanukkah party because Tim Whatley, he converted to Judaism purely to make jokes to his patients about being Jewish.
Oh, God.
That
sounds like a Cranston thing to do.
And, of course, this offended the comedian Jerry Seinfeld. Was like, he's not offended because it's just, it's converted to Judaism. It's because the fact that it offends him as a comedian. That's a real lazy reason to do that. It's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Cranston like kind of that. I'm sorry, the last thing I'm crazy because I just love it. I want to get out of the way. Just Cranston's just he just plays such this fun character in the Seinfeld universe where he's always up to something. It's like sometimes there's like he does questionable things while people are under the nitrous under the gas, and he does this hilarious thing that he tried the gas on himself to see if it worked, and he put it on the patient just to show you everything you need to know about his character.
Right.
Like the guy may not be the best dentist, but he's such a darn charming guy. Like Elaine's dated him. Everyone loves Tim Whatley. That's the gag. Okay, so and Jerry Seinfeld loves Bryan Cranston. That's why he appears so much in Seinfeld because he has such a great time with Cranston.
Nice. So speaking of Elaine and date, she's giving out a fake phone number
to another familiar guest star from another Christmas in July installment.
Oh God. And then the fake number actually spells out no Elaine, and the extra E is for eh.
By the way, our holiday guest star, our other one, is Kevin McDonald, Pleakley from Lilo and Stitch.
Okay, right, yeah.
So let's see. So, Elaine and Jerry, before the whole denim vest guy starts hitting on denim vest. I love it. She keeps calling him like vest or the vest or denim guy.
No, I thought his name was just Denim Vest. I thought that was
it is denim vest, but she shortens it. She shortens it to the vest at times. It's pretty funny. It sounds like a Dick Tracy villain.
Oh God, it does sound like a
Dick Tracy
villain.
But anyways, it's a lot of fun. So like Elaine and Jerry, they're kind of mingling at the party. They basically the constant runners. Whenever they have a party of any kind, it's pretty much Jerry and Elaine or Jerry and company kind of mocking the party in some capacity.
Of course.
So Whatley's still Jewish, huh? Yep. Without the parents, it's a breeze. It's pretty funny. We had a mistletoe gag, which is it's such a lovely first appearance of Cranston. He gets such a wonderful scene. He shows up and he has mistletoe on top. Hey, Elaine, mistletoe. This is hilarious. You gave her has like mistletoe up like and she says no, and Cranston at his finest, and he thanks George for the Yankee tickets. George at this point works for the New York Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
He is but he's distracted by hey Tiffany mistletoe. That Tim Whatley, what a character. Then leading Jerry and Elaine, they can say, oh, what is it, Studio 54 with a menorah? Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then we get down fast. Sorry, it's one of the
Sure.
Sprinkle some awesomeness throughout there. Okay, so Kevin McDonald and Denim Vest. See, that's the thing with Elaine. This is where I think they're going a little far with Elaine. It sounds really unlikable. She gives all these guys fake numbers.
Just the fact that, if she doesn't want to make this go far enough, just don't don't openly engage in conversation with them. I don't know. It just seems like there's things she could do to avoid this whole situation.
That's the thing with Elaine's stories in like seasons 8 and 9. But again, Elaine towards the tail end, that's out of all of them, that was the only one that really falters. That she constantly made that same error, Tiki. She constantly got in situations which, then again, that's kind of the key flaw in all of Seinfeld. They really want to pick airs and everything. Well, so they could easily get out of these situations if they just directly told people how they
Exactly,
feel.
right.
But they're not touchy-feely guys. They're really self-centered New Yorkers. That's the gag. But the point is with Elaine, though, she really suffered most from that because she always, again, she just could have avoided the situation completely by being direct or just completely. Just
saying like, look, I don't want you to have my phone number.
Exactly, or just blowing the guy off. Just just don't.
Sure.
Just don't dangle hope in front of people, Elaine. Like she was cruel without conscience. I think that was the thing. Like Jerry actually had a conscience whenever he did anything cruel, and that's why you liked Jerry. And George did not care, and that was what was hilarious about him.
Oh, exactly.
Elaine she sometimes fakes caring, and it's kind of reads wrong. Anyway, that's just I love Julie Louis-Dreyfus. Let me make that clear. So I think tail end's where she kind of faltered. Anyway, sorry, moving on. So spells out no Elaine. So despite Elaine's pleas, she tries to avoid the guy. Tries to avoid. That's her precaution, which is kind of cruel when you think about it. She, despite her pleas, Elaine circulates and meets a girl by smoothly saying, you may not know this by looking at me, but I can move really, really fast.
Oh, God. Okay.
So then Invest instantly asks for Elaine for a date, which is really forward. And I got to tell you, he doesn't even say hello to her. Just ask her for, I've been checking you out. You want to go out on the date?
It was a different time, and I think I'm going to be saying it was a different time, like quite a few times, especially with the Jerry storyline we have going on in this episode.
Well, we'll see about that. Anyway, so then of course that instantly leads to the fake number. Meanwhile, we get kind of our after the opening credit thing. Well, not the opening credit thing. The prologue is
the baseline
prologue. Yes.
The
cold open.
Yeah.
We have. It's mentioned Jerry's talking to George in classic sense. These two guys, the straight man, the comedian. It's how it usually goes. Jerry's the straight man to all these crazies. Jerry says, it's mentioned that Jerry hit it off with the girl at the party. Gwen, I believe. Jerry really hit off with Gwen. George is working at Kruger Industrial at this point. George, he gets fired from a lot of jobs, as you can summarize.
Right.
Oh, actually, sorry, I screwed something up. I guess George, he got some Yankee tickets before he left. That's why he gave him the Watley. It was he got fired earlier, like last season or something. So that's why. Anyway, points. He's working at Kruger Industrial, which pretty much the gag here is that this is George's third main job, and out of various jobs he gets fired from. The point is the main job, and it's a place that's so lazy the boss does not care at all. He's just so terrible at his job. George is right at home, but he does all the work even though he has to because no one cares. And it's like you think it'd be paradise for George, but no, someone actually has to keep the company afloat, and apparently that's George.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so place that doesn't care, and it shows. Let's see. So George convenient. I'm sorry, takes through some of this.
Yeah, sure. So George sees. Let's see. He finds out somehow that the Yankees tickets.
He conveniently goes through his mail. It's really convenient. They call themselves again. Season 9's kind of self-aware, saying, it's kind of convenient. Your mail there, chick.
And then
letter from Tim Watley.
So George discovers that the Yankee tickets were donated to a children's charity, the Children's Alliance. And,
no, Tiki. It's not the tickets weren't donated. Watley took the tickets, but Watley kept the tickets. But in his gift back to George was not something in kind. It was that he made a donation in George's name.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought for some reason that the tickets went to the Yankees. Okay, or the children. I'm sorry. My bad.
That's fine. Anyway, so Jerry thinks, that's nice, and George questions, how is that fair? Again, how is
don't you see how wrong this is? Where's your Christmas spirit? Again, I love Jason Alexander. He's easily the highlight of the show for me.
Again, George, the way he plays George is parents. George written is Larry David. All of the George stuff really happens to Larry David in real life. For the most part, like, the majority of the stuff has happened to Larry David. Anyway. George is questioning, well, how is that fair? Again, how is donating to a children's charity fair?
And how does it go against Christmas spirit?
I'm just saying, It's basically, I just love how he equates this. This show has some brilliant writing sometimes. Just him saying that basically what Watley's on here is it equates to I've given your gift to someone else. Where's the
Exactly.
Christmas here in that?
Exactly.
And then basically Jerry's response to all this insanity is, it's for children. So I was going to say, where's the
children?
Christmas spirit? It's eye for an eye. Then he says, do me a favor, don't give me anything this year. Just Jerry's the wise man in the group. He's the wise guy. Let's see. So Elaine enters. She mentions this whole atomic sub card thing. Basically, she's been going to a sub place, getting terrible subs, so she can get a free one on principle. Hey, I got a free sub. I committed something, and I saw it to the end.
And I will say this is pretty funny.
The plot's not. This plot's not bad. Just the lengths of what you can easily get out of it. It's
exactly.
Anyway, so. The atomic sub card, she needs 24 subs. She's eating 23, so she's going to get one more, and hence the free sub.
Mm-hmm.
So George also, again, going through his mail at the table provides for so much coincidence. Again, you got to think of this with shows nowadays. If you ever see characters going through their mail at the table, just remember that, folks. That means, okay, well, it's just instant plot when you bring mail anywhere with you. So George gets a card from his father, and let me mention this thing. It's very important. I didn't get to mention this earlier on because I botched that one. But we had this whole story, as I told you in the opening somewhat, is that a lot of stories in Seinfeld are based off real-life occurrences. Now, Festivus is a real thing.
Oh, God, yeah.
The writer who wrote this episode, and this is a hilarious story, it's real quick, Dan O'Keefe, a good writer on Seinfeld, he was basically corralled by the other writers, including the wonderful Dave Mandel, who was a friend of Kevin Smith's, a really good writer. Basically, he was corralled by the writers in the writers' room because Dan O'Keefe has probably told them about his Festivus experience. You listen, you have to write an episode about that. We have to see Festivus.
Right.
Pretty much the strong Festivus episode, and everyone loved it. And that's pretty much Festivus. Like 80% of Festivus is in this on the money in the sense. Like basically, the poll was added for the show. Pretty much, the poll was added. Everything else of Festivus is real in the episode.
All right, so it's a holiday in the context of the show. It's a holiday that George's father made up.
Yes. And Elaine snatches it, despite George's protest and questions, "What is Festivus?" And much to George's dismay, Jerry explains it. And it's like, "Don't, Jerry, stop!" Jerry just explains that despite George's protest, Festivus was a holiday his father came up with for his own holiday because he hated the commercialism and religious aspects of Christmas.
Oh, that Jerry Stiller.
Yep, and it uses, Festivus includes wonderful gems like an aluminum pole you put up for decoration, which we'll get into why later on.
Yeah.
The feats of strength, the airing of grievances, yada yada yada, and you can tell it usually ends with George crying.
Of kind of like classic, I feel like a lot of classic Seinfeld comes out of this because I feel like the airing of grievances is a thing that's just kind of caught on in pop culture now that people just sort of do. I've heard that term thrown around a lot. Hey guys, let's have an airing of grievances. And I feel like it's a very helpful thing. I don't know, I feel like this is one of those episodes that kind of touched the pop culture lexicon when it came out, in a way.
Well, you know how big a deal this was, Tiki? Back in the 90s when Seinfeld was going strong, Ben and Jerry's actually put out a Festivus ice cream.
Oh God, that's awesome. What were the flavors? Do you remember?
Well, it was something Christmas related. It was something Christmas
peppermint, probably.
I don't know, I think there was a tree on it. It was probably something green in there, probably.
Oh my God. Okay. Anyways.
Anyway, but how hilarious is that, though? Anyway, so let's see. So and usually ends with George crying, and then George leaves. He can't stand Festivus. Now let's look at this from the Christmas in July filter. Well, Christmas in one day after July filter. So George. Basically, it's hilarious. It's this is kind of the Christmas trope of running away from the holidays. So George is running away from the holidays. Because you got to remember, folks, technically, while this does take place around Christmas and around Hanukkah, apparently, it's around a fictional holiday. So we got, a very rarely real celebrated holiday, except in Dan O'Keefe's household. People don't really celebrate Festivus.
Yeah.
So basically, George is running away from his roots, as Frank Costanza will put it later. It's awesome. It's the It's the Christmas trope of running away from your family, running away from your beliefs. That's a rare one we've gotten here, and it's what a wonderful way to start it.
Okay, so great introduction to Kramer in the episode. Jerry walks in on him. What are you doing, reading the VCR manual? And Kramer's response is just like, well, I'm sorry, we can't all be reading the classics, Professor Highbrow. Kramer is, I got to admit, sometimes he can be a little overbearing and over the top, but here I really love Kramer's storyline. Kramer's storyline is so ridiculous that it just works.
Oh, yeah. So basically Elaine enters, again, more exposition, but they always make the exposition at least pop and at least funny in the show again, but it's nowhere near the level of a Doc Brown exposition. But this is kind of natural kind of group exposition they really get in there. So Elaine steps by and basically she discovers, oh no, her atomic sub card is missing, and she basically wrote down the fake number for denim vest on the back of it, and she gave it to that guy. So that means she is without sub card, which means she's eaten 23 bad subs for nothing.
Oh, God.
And again, I love this, though. Here's her rationale to Jerry. Again, Jerry Seinfeld, again, wonderfully proves in the show he's kind of the voice of the audience, and basically a voice of kind of the counter-argument throughout the whole series, where he voices the obvious solution, which, again, is kind of necessity you need when you have situations that are easily get out of. Again, for the most part, it usually works. Where it's kind of addressed in a really clever way, where, Jerry says, well, you don't need to stay, basically, you've eaten 23 bad subs, why get the other one? Basically, she says, well, it's like an end of a bad... It's like you see a movie. It's like a bad movie. You got to stay till the end to see it. It says, no, you don't. You wait for the book. And it's like then. Then she changes it to, you got to stay till the end of a bad book. No, you wait for the book to be made into a movie. It was really kind of funny. So point out the absurdity.
Just on principle, she's just like, I want that free sub.
It's Jerry screwing with her with the high tech hoagie shop thing.
Of course.
I'm sure it's all done on computers now, Elaine. Just again, seriously, Jerry Seinfeld is probably one of the best straight men in all of television. One of the best. I mean, rarely in this world will we get a straight man as good as Bud Abbott. I would argue Jerry Seinfeld, he's up there though.
He's up there for sure. For sure, he's carved his niche.
Certainly. No one's a bigger fan of Bud Abbott than Jerry Seinfeld, too. I mean, he loves Abbott and Costello. I mean, as much as I love Abbott and Costello, he really loves those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. So, again, after the high-tech hoagie shop, it's on computers. And apparently at this time, not so much. They're cloning sheep now. And just Kramer thinks, it thinks the whole same sheep conspiracy buys into it. No, they didn't clone a sheep. It's the same sheep. He saw 2 goats and a handkerchief on the old Dean Martin show. A magic trick with 2 goats and a handkerchief on the old Dean Martin show. I appreciate that line because I love some of the Dean Martin shows. So Jerry suggests Elaine check with the blown off number. You check wherever that number leads to. You see if she's heard anything from that vest.
Right.
Then Kramer gets a call, and this definitely dates it. And this is something you can't avoid in Seinfeld. As much as they're pretty. It's almost it's a show wonderfully set in the '90s, but it's some things you can't avoid.
Okay.
Like the giant cell phones. The giant cell phones are
To be honest with you, I'm kind of blind to that because I'm just kind of used to it with Seinfeld.
At least it wasn't as bad as when Chuck had his phone in Better Call Saul. That was intentional, but still, that was like the size of an army, like a thing calling a drone or something. So anyway, so Kramer gets a call, and he's always startled by it. It's like I always love it because it seems like Kramer's apartment phone just with an antenna.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Constantly brings with him. So basically, Kramer gets. This is a fun way to do exposition. Just kind of suddenly gets word of us, the audience, and Jerry and Elena completely in the dark. What the heck's going on? Kramer gets a call and says, "What?" And it basically explains, "Hey, the strike's been settled. What strike? I'm going back to work. Back to work." The Kramer, of course, very famous for not working. Very famous for sponging off Jerry. Apparently, Kramer had a job at H&H Bagels, which also had used to be based on a very successful business that sold rock soup.
Oh God! And there's also Hamlin and Hamlin.
Yes. Actually, here's the fascinating story, Digger. Real quick, is that the soup business went out of place when the soup Nazi really started up in the neighborhood, and then that place became H&H, which was Hamlin Bagels, and then Hamlin Bagels kind of became a law firm. So now the name just kind of stuck. Like H&H, and 2 other guys with H names started the bagel business.
Okay.
So,
So
Hamlin Bagels. Now they make Danishes, as you can see in Better Call Saul. They make cheese Danishes now.
they've been on strike for 12 years, and why did the striking stop?
Basically, they were demanding $5.35 an hour, which was, in the '90s was the minimum wage. Was the current
Right.
minimum wage at the time. And it's just, well, you know who to thank for that now. Ian Kramer's completely thinking his strike actually mattered, and also they said, oh yeah, they knew about this strike, but they haven't seen picketing for years. And so, oh yeah, well they stopped picketing there because they wouldn't let us use their bathroom. You had picketing, and you want to use the bathroom, the place you're picketing. It's
They put a
ridiculous.
cramp in our solidarity.
Just like such an oxymoron Kramer is. He's just a wonderful oxymoron.
And Kramer's just like, well, I didn't want you guys to know I was out of work. It's embarrassing. Like you said, Kramer famous for being an out of work guy.
So I guess the fact that Michael Ritchie plays, just Kramer does not get the irony at all. It's just brilliant. Just he doesn't. See, Kramer's always been the most likable of the characters. He has like the most kind of childlike niceness about him. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get the cynicism. He's actually the most innocent out of all of them.
Yeah, I see it.
I don't know, he might be a scammer at times, but he's always nice at heart. The rest of them, though, Jerry's more like commenting on the struggles of the everyman. George is the everyman, and of course, Elaine, kind of basically Jerry, but thinks more of herself than she should.
Mm-hmm. So Kramer bursts in. He's stoked to be back. Oh God! All the other guys got new jobs like 10 years ago, which is what a normal person would do in this situation. Oh God! Then Kramer's like, "Well, it makes you wonder what it was all for, doesn't it?"
Well, we have the jacket gag, which I don't know if this is intentional or not, but there was a hilarious episode where Kramer he tried cooking his shirts because he liked hot shirt, like warm shirts like out of the dryer.
No,
He had to put a shirt and his jacket and his clothes into like an actual pizza oven once. And
God!
So it's like him storing his jacket with the other foods. I think is a callback to him storing his jacket with food for bizarre reasons. So he basically goes back to work because they need someone for the holidays. I can use someone for the holidays. Let's bagel. So Kramer's in. He has a job again. Hooray! I don't think anyone would have been allowed to come back after all those years. Do you think? We actually would have had a legal right to actually still work there.
I have no idea what the legal loophole would have been. Anyways,
let's see. So let him call a lawyer. Will call McGill.
Oh God.
So he notices the raisin bagels, which never thought I'd live to see that.
Okay, so Elaine goes back to the place where the number's traced, and apparently she's pretty famous. Which I gotta say, Dragon, does she really give her phone number out to this many people?
Well, I mean, it's much like Jerry. It's kind of like almost a girlfriend a week. Elaine, it's like she'll be single for stretches. Like Jerry's never single. That's the gag. Jerry will always weekly find a girlfriend. But
God, right.
But in case of Elaine, though, I mean, sometimes she'll have David Putty is usually her on again, off again boyfriend. So when basically the excuse of the show is we can have very famous we can have various guest stars, and so like Bob Odenkirk actually was one of Elaine's boyfriends for
of course, yeah.
A lot of Seinfeld. Also, Skylar White. Skylar White.
On a gun.
Thank you. I don't know why I'm blanking. On a gun. Thank you. Again, we kind of try to block our minds from Skylar now. He usually just kind of say Skylar instead of on a gun, but I don't know. Points. On a gun, she actually dated Jerry Seinfeld once. Boom, there's a lot of fun little guest stars there. And point is, whenever they wanted to showcase one, they say, okay, well, she's off the putty right now. Then, of course, bringing back the wonderful, hilarious Patrick Warburton as David.
Of course.
And so she has dated a lot of guys through the course of the series. So it's not really surprising that she would have. Plus, again, she has horrible taste in men too. That's kind of the running gag too. She just keeps running wrong guys. Hence all the different boyfriends because she's the problem. She doesn't realize it.
So the guy here, he basically tries to make a deal with her. He's like, "Okay, give me the real number, and I'll call you back if we hear anything."
And again, Elaine deserves this comeuppance, though. I mean, she's given these guys. I mean, you kind of don't want this for her, but at the same time, she kind of has earned it. She's given her number out to hundreds of everyone in the place knows her name because no Elaine spells spelled in the horse betting place. You got these two sleazy guys behind you. You understand we can all relate to the discomfort of you don't want certain people knowing your number.
Of course, yeah.
But Elaine in this context, it is a comeuppance that she deserves. She come on, first of all, why doesn't she just give them like Jerry's apartment or something? You think? Because usually her go-to in the series was to give guys she's dating Jerry's number.
Okay.
I was wondering why she didn't do that. So it's kind of a logic thing. She instantly goes for Kramer's Bagel Place, which is plot convenience.
right.
And exactly. These guys are really sleazy. By the way, the guy with the fat guy with the long hair behind the sleazy guy saying, "Then I'll have your number." The guy trying a Michael McKean impression. That guy, seriously, it's like a sleazy Michael McKean. That guy's trying to be anyway. So, guy behind him, he's actually an adult. He interviews adult film stars. So he's kind of a. Said that later on, there's a scene towards the tail end where he's going to be behind Elaine, and he's basically because she's the only one that knew that when they're filming that, she keeps breaking every take during that last scene in the episode.
Right.
Anyway, sorry, piggyback on that later. Point is, so basically, again, she had the number. She gave these guys the number to the H&H Bagel Place, and she also places a bet on a horse, and that's going to come back too. Okay, so what's going on?
Let me see. So
Jerry bumps into
the woman from the. I'm sorry, I don't know her name. What's her name?
Okay, Jerry bumps into Tim Watley at a restaurant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He mentions that. Oh yeah, I met a girl at your party. Guys, I love Tim. By the way, Tim Watley, I'm pretty sure hooked up with Tiffany, the really buxom, gorgeous girl. Which of course, I just love incredibly successful Bryan Cranston in this universe. I just love this. He's just so incredibly successful.
For some reason, I don't have the scene in my notes, and I don't know why. I apologize.
Well, basically, he mentions, oh, yeah, I met a girl at the party. I'm meeting her here now by coincidence. You have a really nice restaurant, and the girl stops by, and instead of looking at you, look pretty good, Gwen, and then she shows up, and she's looking, what they did here, they adjusted the lighting, and they gave her some prosthetics to make her look ugly. She looks very like a ghost of her former self, like she's like having a really bad hair, basically a whole look day. It's not just the hair, it's the nose, it's everything. So she's looking off, and Cranston gives this, again, last thing we're going to see of Cranston in this episode, but oh my God, what a wonderful, again, this is why Jerry Seinfeld brings Bryan Cranston back, because he sells so much comedy in a look. He just gives him a look of like, well, that's a shame. It's like, ooh, good luck with that.
right.
Just, again, like the exchange of each other, like Jerry's in shock, and he's looking to Wiley, says, I don't know what happened. It's hilarious.
And I must say, I don't know, I think the storyline is kind of in poor taste these days.
I don't know. I mean, I think because they make it so absurd in the whole Two-Face thing, I think it's pretty hilarious.
I guess so, but it's just kind of.
Oh well, I'll give you this though. I hate the way it pans out, but I mean, the concept of it's pretty funny.
I just think it's the concept of it's funny, but I just think it plays out in kind of a mean-spirited sort of way.
Yeah, well, again, they didn't really talk about the issues, and again, we know it's not going to last because Jerry's girlfriend's never lasts. It's kind of a one-off.
Okay.
But I do have issues with it, how it wraps up, though. We'll get there. So, anyway, so George and Jerry have a conversation about this, and pretty much it's the famous Two-Face conversation. I love all that. In Seinfeld, of course, the famous thing is all the nicknames for various problem people they have. There's also another thing that they deal with. They don't treat people nicely. That's the gag. They're very superficial people that somehow we like because they make us laugh, even though they're really morally reprehensible people.
Sure.
Yeah, basically, the It's Sunny in Philadelphia gang, they're based on the Seinfeld gang, only they're more X-rated.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say X-rated. They're even more horrible if you can imagine it. So George and Jerry having a little conversation, pretty much discovering. One day she looked great, and then last night she looked like something's wrong with her. And basically he says, "Oh, I've had that experience before, Jerry. You have a Two-Face. She's a Two-Face. And like the Batman villain, if that helps." I love George. Rarely got into the superheroes. Don't get me wrong. It's like he'll make a Batman reference now and again, but George will always like put Jerry down for like, really? That's what you're going to use to avoid this. And so basically the risk here for Jerry, as he exposits, the risk is going out. Whenever he goes out, this girl has a risk of the good, the bad, or the ugly, isn't it? Which one? And then George has this funny runner through the series, where he just he'll snaps from basically called the quote or called the spelling of a name. He says he's random, like he always wants to kind of get it on the nose, like Clint Eastwood. Which I think we all kind of do to an extent, you know. Like
I
I'm
definitely do. Yeah.
you know, I mean, I like to quote a good movie now and again. I'm kind of the other end of it, but you know, I can relate to George. It's just kind of like, you know, a little bit of pop culture flowing out of you. I love Deadpool. You know, it happens.
So George, he has a scheme for the Christmas present where he's making these fake donations into what he's called the Human Fund, which is a charity he entirely made up.
This is hilarious, and I believe again this is based on. I don't know if it was specifically from Dan O'Keefe or not, but I believe the origin of the story was like someone gave him one of the writers got like a donation card, and it seemed like pretty much like one kind of got him thinking, what would the dollar amount really be, the equation be here, and that kind of led to the story. So just the human fund scam is hilarious, and one of George's like cruelest yet hilarious things. You know, just in the name of a faux charity, he's giving out Christmas gifts to avoid buying strangers in his office Christmas gifts, and he will still receive the actual gifts though, which is hysterical.
Which again, I think that's one of the big strengths of Seinfeld is that they do cynical humor really well.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And, you know, it has a certain understated stupidity, and George thinks that's a movie quote, but not really. It's just Jerry commenting on George's scheme here.
No, it is a movie quote. It's from Outlaw Josie Wales.
Wait, that's an actual quote?
Yeah, that's why he says Outlaw Josie Wales. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was this George calling the wrong quote. But okay, I guess it's
no. It's from Outlaw Josie Wales.
All right, okay.
Trust me, my dad loves that movie. Anyway,
sure. I'm just saying it's kind of a fun. Man, Jerry is even more rapacious when it comes to the pop culture quotes because he's using them even to, like a double-sided sword against George. Right. So, Kramer.
Mm-hmm. So Kramer brings some bagels to the house. They're a day old, and the homeless wouldn't even touch them. They even had a strategy where they put a couple fresh ones on top, but they dig. They dig.
George, meanwhile, is wished a happy Festivus by Jerry and Elaine, much to George's dismay. And Kramer's questioning what Festivus. In the minute Kramer questions what Festivus is, you got to know. You pretty much kind of figure out what's going to happen in this episode. Like Kramer's going to invoke. He's going to be really curious. He's going to find out what Festivus is. It's going to spell disaster. And Kramer's intrigued. Kramer's like a naturally curious guy. I love Kramer as the inventor in the show because it always came out with some ideas were actually decent, some ideas were just completely insane and ridiculous. Yet somehow, again, because of the success of Seinfeld, people actually want these inventions now.
Exactly right.
Like cologne that smells like the beach.
That sounds good, man. I'd buy that.
Anyway, let's see. So Lane. Kramer, by the way, Kramer and Frank Costanza have like a wonderful history of like these two guys will get into some of these crazy invention or get rich quick schemes. Like they're actually really good friends, oddly enough. You know, actually Kramer's more friendly with Frank Costanza, I think he is with George. Honestly,
right. I can see that.
I just love that. I just always adored the friendship between Kramer and Frank Costanza. It's so out of left field. It's like they're so these two most eccentric characters in the show being the best of buddies.
Of course.
Frank invented a holiday. He's so prolific.
Oh God.
Anyway, so then Elaine hatches her H&H plan.
Mm-hmm.
Which is oh, by the way, I love this. Like, there's some doesn't the hat line come into play here?
I'm not sure. Unfortunately. Oh wait, yeah. There's a. I don't have the context of it, but is there a captain's hat involved in all of this?
Yeah, it's this is Jerry kind of questioning why is this so important? Again, Jerry calling him on the
submarine thing, like because she gets to be captain of the atomic submarine,
which is just absolutely ridiculous that she's doing this all for a hat.
Right. I don't even think there is a hat. I think it's a free sub. I think Jerry's just being sarcastic with the hat.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's asking about that, and like Elaine doesn't give him a straight answer, which suggests, oh God, it might also be for a hat. No, basically, so you're called a captain or something, even if you're not given. I don't know. Anyway, so meanwhile, let's see. So, Kramer and Frank. Oh, this is one of the famous scenes, folks.
Of course.
Kramer and visits again, I love how nice Frank Costanza is to Kramer. It's like he just shows up at Kramer's place of work, takes time out of his day, just shows up. Kramer, I heard you wanted to speak. What's going on? What's it about? Basically shares, I hear you want to talk about Festivus. What's going on? I haven't talked about Festivus in many years. What's your interest? I think he's so genuine about it. And Frank Costanza just loves to feel useful. It's really what he does. If anyone's going to make Frank Costanza feel on top of the world, it's going to be Kramer.
Right.
So, Kramer begs him, Frank, tell me the origin of the Festivus. What's the story behind this thing? Anyways, it gives him the Festivus origin. Tiki, would you like to regale the folks with the Festivus origin?
Sure. So basically,
wait, hold on. Tiki, grab the pole.
Oh, of course.
Give it some ambiance, man. Give it some ambiance.
Okay. Oh, God. So let's see.
Go on.
So let's see. He hasn't celebrated Festivus in many years, but oh God, I'm sorry. I don't have the full thing down. It's something about the doll being destroyed.
Okay, just the.
I apologize. That's the only thing I have on my notes. I apologize. My notes weren't very specific, apparently.
Okay, the point is, Frank, years and years ago, of Festivus's past, a Christmas past of one day, he was buying a doll for George. He was buying a doll for George when he was a youngster, and basically there was one doll left on the shelf. Frank Costanza then got into a very violent altercation. I think one of the hilarious lines is, and as rain blows down upon him, but again, Frank Costanza played by the wonderful Jerry Stiller. I mean, give it up for the guy.
Of course.
And as rain blows down upon him, I realized there had to be a simpler way. And basically, it's and there was such a violent, because Frank Costanza is a violent man with a short fuse. He basically got in such a violent fight with this man. I had to think there's an easier way. Basically, he got disillusioned with the commercialism of holidays, where he actually beat a man over a doll. And then Kramer's asking, what happened to the doll? It was destroyed. It was destroyed in the fight. But from that loss, a new holiday was born. A Festivus for the rest of us. A Festivus for the rest of us. Just put it on a greeting card.
That's a famous quote. That I hear that everywhere. Festivus for the rest of us.
Yep. No, the rest of us. Get it? A Festivus for the rest of us.
Right.
And then Kramer said, "Oh, it must have been some doll." She was. The idea George wasn't even going after a G.I. Joe or an action figure or a Turbo Man. It wasn't even a Turbo Man. It was all for another doll.
Oh God.
Okay, let's see. So then we have George, and this is George Costanza at his finest. Yeah, you put the thing that I only impose on you with that. So,
no problem.
This is George Costanza at his finest. You can feel kind of the Larry David burning off him. Again, this wasn't something Larry David specifically did because he's gone at this point in the series. But George is giving out the cheapest, most kind of cynical gift. Again, like a horrible gift that you give around the holidays. You're giving people nothing, but you're making it seem like he's giving. And again, Jason Alexander knows how to play this like there's no tomorrow. He knows how to play just like a guy enjoying the most reprehensible action ever, like not thinking, like not a care in the world. Though. Just exactly. He's giving out. He's taking gifts. Like a woman gives him a nice wine bottle or something, like an alcohol thing of something, and he basically his here you go, and he's like so happy go lucky. He's not a ounce of, not a cent of remorse on this guy over his actions. He's like giving it out, and again, top of the world. Like George Costanza is walking on sunshine. He has no gift. He has no worries about buying gift. I'm sorry, I want to address this because it's Christmas in July. Daily is that it's so funny that we always talk about in Christmas in July all these. Finding the right gift for people, the office Christmas party, all of that. And this is such a fun subversion of that. Of George Costanza does not have to worry about getting anyone a gift because he's giving something. Like he just, hey, bye. Someone in the other room, like, hey,
it's like the anti-ultimate Christmas present. It's like the worst Christmas present ever.
And I suppose George Costanza is the Scrooge, by the way. I mean,
yes. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think he is. I think he fits the bill the most.
But here's why he's a Scrooge. It's not for the obvious reason, the fact that, okay, he's cruelly giving people nothing. It is not that reason. It is the other, more hilarious reason that
because
George
he doesn't want to celebrate Festivus.
Yeah, so it goes to the wonderfully absurd season. George Costanza.
Exactly.
He resents his heritage, as Frank Costanza will ultimately put it later. And then George Costanza goes through a journey as he is continually rejecting his past. I hate Festivus. He's like the Grinch almost. But then there will be a moment, not out of like an actual revelation, but out of saving his own hide, mentioned, "Oh yes, sir, there is a Festivus, and oh, it exists, it does," and basically it comes around in the most morally reprehensible of ways.
Exactly.
So, but he does go through an arc of accepting Festivus, but not through the means we would expect. So. Anyway, so George is gleefully giving out nothing to people. Says, "Hey," like tosses like gleefully into a guy's office. And it's a love when he does that little action. Jason Alexander does like he like flips it like, "Hey, catch." Okay. Meanwhile, Frank explains. I was trying to think where he explains this. I guess it's still. Oh yeah, it's still in Baker's. Frank explains. "Oh yes, we have the airing of grievances, and then there's the poll." And says,
Here we go.
"Well, how do you decorate? We use a poll."
Yep.
Says, "Well, what did you put anything on the poll?" "No, I find tinsel distracting." And then there's Kramer's inspired. "Well, let's do it again." Kramer's the guy, easily inspired.
He's so into it.
And, much like Kramer is, "I'm back." And basically, Frank Costanza basically does his best kind of Tobey Maguire. "I'm back. It's back." He's Frank. Festivus is back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love this though. He always has he always gets into arguments or some absurd thing with Elaine. He says, "Hello, woman." He doesn't even know Elaine's
Hello,
name.
woman. Yes.
Ridiculous. And Elaine's coming there checking on Kramer with the whole bagel scam, with the whole free sub, the atomic sub card thing. Basically asking if any word from Den Investors. Kramer's waiting for a call, and he'll basically get the information from the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, let's see. So Kramer wants Festivus off, which will be on the 23rd. And, again, very few details inaccurate about Festivus. The only two details, there's no poll in the actual Festivus, and it does not take place specifically on the 23rd. Basically, it's like this looming threat of a holiday. Pretty much, whoever celebrates Festivus, usually Dano keeps crazy. He has a crazy family. That's the guy who came up with this insane holiday.
Okay.
They would basically spring it on you whenever in December.
No.
So
Oh, no.
anytime in December, you didn't know when it was coming. Like Jaws, pretty much a Jaws.
Oh, God.
So again, it wasn't exactly on the 23rd, but point is that they're saying it's Kramer wants the 23rd off for Festivus, which obviously his boss is like, it's a fictional holiday. It's just, oh God.
Are you infringing on my right to celebrate new holidays and learn about new cultures? I'm going on strike.
God.
But he calls Lane a scab. Scab!
I love that guy so much.
Oh, God.
Anyway, let's see. So then we have the lighting gag. So one, again, really good, clever little lighting for the accentuate kind of, Gwen's kind of a horrible disfigurement at times.
Again, I think it's so fucking mean-spirited, though. I feel so bad for this woman.
I don't know. In the end, I'd say Tiki, throughout the series, we know Jerry, all of them are very superficial. They care about looks and things like that. So again, you're not supposed to. Again, you're not
that superficial about it when it's basically like, oh no, a woman doesn't look like completely stunning and gorgeous in certain lighting. She's horrible.
I mean, look, to be fair, it's. Don't get me wrong, it is morally reprehensible. It's not a good message to send, but however, the way Jerry goes about it, again, he's willing to live with this. There is an extent. Again, I'm not saying it's a pleasant, positive message.
Be willing to live with it. It's like it should be about if he wants to be with the person or not.
Well, I'm saying in the grand scheme, he doesn't want. He just it's like he doesn't expect any future thing of these girls. He doesn't.
I guess so. Yeah.
But I think on some level it's the fact that in his own mind he thinks the fact that he's willing to he'll make do with get her in the good lighting constantly, and he's still trying to make it work though. So it's something. Compared to the rest of them would drop her like a bad habit. Jerry's trying to make it work. I think that's really kind of the determining factor with that.
Fair enough.
Out of all of them, Jerry's still the morally best because he actually feels bad for these things. Mm-hmm. At times. Anyway, so let's see. Suppose we see some Gwen in I think Gwen's in a car. All right, she's in the car, and basically, I didn't know it was going to show up. Well, either way, you're telling me.
And like you said, the lighting is kind of switching back and forth, between the ugly and the normal.
Because basically Jerry picks her up to go to dinner, and basically it's nighttime and the lights on. Okay, well, she looks good when the car's alone and under a certain lighting. She looks great. I said, well, who are you expecting? Oh, no one else. Just you. You never know. Anyway, they just drive
really quick. I love George's analogy of the the 3D baseball card.
Well, that's Jerry's analogy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. One minute she's pretty at the plate, next minute she's advancing the runners.
The 3D base, see, that's why I can't really hold it against it, because you get funny lines like that. I'm just like, it's a 3D base. Calling her a 3D baseball card is so accurate and so hilarious.
Right.
That is exactly the problem. So well established, so well conveyed in dialogue. The show has fantastic dialogue in these cafes, in the coffee shops.
Of course.
So let's see. So then Jerry's establishing. Okay, well, she only really around here. She always looks good in that one booth in the back. So there's your solution. You hear, and then what about when things escalate to the bedroom? Well, lights out.
Oh God.
So again, I mean, Jerry getting the wrong advice from George Costanza, but he's realized, well, I mean, I could try to make it work. So I guess the guy is like, he's always one step close to having actually a full arc, but he never gets to that third step.
Right. Okay.
He's always in like the classic middle, like you have the wrong idea, and then you're gonna have the right idea, and he never gets the right idea.
So we see that George has bought himself some nice cufflinks with with the charity, with the money that he saved from Christmas presents with the charity.
I thought he was given those. I'm pretty sure he was given those. That's the gay. He gets these exquisite gifts, but he's not.
Oh,
yeah, he's not.
I thought he bought the cufflinks. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, man. I could have sworn. I think it's funnier.
I just thought Kramer complimented George on his cufflinks.
Jerry.
I'm sorry.
Jerry, that's fine. Jerry just comments on the cufflink and says, "Oh, it's not a French cuff shirt." Well, I know. Just think I took the button off. I carved the hole. Just classic. They always do this, taking the bites out of each other like that. It's always
in comes the pole once again.
This is to show you how clever Michael Richards is as comedian. He told Jerry to throw the dragon on the floor like he did, just to make a loud noise and everything. To make it accentuate that. Oh my God, this is such a horrific prop. And people actually
is a part of who you are. I'm sorry.
And there are some people that actually celebrate Festivus, and they do actually buy poles and they put them in there, like the aluminum poles.
Okay, so George is, he's going through the arc. He's like, well, that's why I hate it.
George, Festivus is your heritage. It is who you are. That's why I hate it. And you see, George is just genuine. Again, I love this. George's so genuine with his absolute hatred and embarrassment at this holiday. It's like no irony, no just I hate it for superficial reasons. No, he just genuinely hates it.
Right.
And you understand, it's kind of a sad layer of George Costanza. His parents were so screwed up, they made him, so cynical and so Larry David.
Of course. Yeah.
Anyway, so then Frank brings in the tape recorder, and this is a real thing from Festivus. All the Festivuses are recorded.
Oh God! God, that's awful.
They are on cassette. So basically, a tape is played from my Festivus past. And again, this is kind of the ghost section of the Scrooge story, where he's kind of ghost of Christmas past. Being reminded, this is the part where Scrooge says, "No, I can't take it. I'm out of here." Just don't show me any more spirit. That's essentially what this is, where he's hearing, I can't see anything with the read it, George. I can't see anything without my glasses. You're weak. That's why you don't need glasses. You're just weak. Then he says, now it's time for the feats of strength. And George is crying. I love that it's grown Jason Alexander. The idea of whether he's playing young or just it's like a few years ago, just the idea of just George stands so, such a weak position. It's so sad and hilarious. And he gets basically he and Jerry get like a dinner invite to Festivus, and George ends up running. He's running away from his heritage. He's running away from his destiny, folks.
Oh God.
Meanwhile, Gwen arrives. And importantly, it's very more plot detail. Kramer sees Gwen not at her best.
Yeah.
Yikes! Kramer sees her. They both they go to the booth, and everything's okay. You go to the booth, she looks fine.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good-looking booth, as Jerry puts it. Meanwhile,
Kramer is striking outside of the bagel shop. Oh,
hilariously, no bagel. And Elaine, easy outs for her situation. Is offered a free sandwich by the bagel guy.
And I love that. I love that the bagel guy is so pleasant with that. That's what I call a pleasantry. You know what I mean?
And he was from Ned's at the Classified School Survival Guide, by the way.
Okay.
He was the woodshop teacher. Remember the guy missing the hand?
I haven't watched that show. I'm sorry.
Oh.
But
Okay.
look, lady, if you want a sandwich so much, I'll make you one. Come on.
Meanwhile, Kramer warns Elaine of sabotage going that he is somehow
God.
basically somehow sabotaged the bagel place, and they warns her, heads up. Also, I love this. This is so innocent. This is hilarious. Just Elaine and Kramer paired together is really hilarious because again, she plays the straight man to basically an unhinged straight man playing a straight man to an even crazier guy.
Sure.
Essentially, that's kind of their dynamic. I just love this more. They kind of wave into each other. Hi.
Oh God.
Anyway, so after that, it says you've been warned, and then just basically a steam valve breaks or something, and then basically nothing is exploding or anything. Just like big old steam pouring out of something. It's not like super hot, like scalding steam. It's just really hot steam.
How do you like your bagels now, huh?
And they can still. Basically, his plot has failed.
Right.
And Kramer's just looking dumbfounded, like I thought it through perfectly. How could this happen? I curse you, bury the platypus, or something along those lines. So let's see. So Kruger gives George a check for $20,000 because George gave him one of the gift one of the human fund donation cards earlier on. I love that it's not even like in an envelope or anything. George was just handing out cards. I was a little bit lazy as he wouldn't even buy the envelopes.
Right, exactly.
Oh, actually, now that I think of it, it's hilarious. It might be in reference to the fact that you remember last time he bought envelopes, it ended up killing his fiance. So maybe that's why they're not envelopes.
Oh God. Yeah, you're right. I think that's very much. You could be right on the money with that because there were a lot of psychological issues that came out of that whole storyline.
I think it's hilarious if that's the case because it makes all the sense in the world. Though he wouldn't want to chance it because he picks very cheap envelopes. He wouldn't want to risk licking them and getting killed. So anyway, so Kruger here, Mr. Kruger, gives George a check for $20,000, which was a lot back then, folks.
It was. And
this is also
a nice little. This is a nice little bit of the Scrooge arc here. Because we have George at an opportunity where he could take this money for himself if he really wanted to.
Yep. George he then sees Kruger lock himself out of his office, and his rationale is, okay, I'm going to go home. Just again, just Kruger being just the laziest. Just again, if you thought George Costanza was a bad employee, this is like the worst boss ever. Just like the dumbest laziest guy in the room. Like he only cares to the point he's legally obligated to care. Aside from that, he just doesn't care. So let's see. So from Kruger there. Gwen is getting sick of the coffee shop. She finds a rubber band in her soup. Jerry's trying to say, no, it's great again because he wants the attractive girlfriend dining with him.
I know Tiki today. He does great stuff. Trust me.
I love that gag, by the way. Again, we've been in this coffee shop for at least 9 seasons now. I love there's some familiarity building here. Then George enters and pretty much, no, well, she didn't even touch her soup. Yeah, didn't even touch her soup. And basically, George helps himself and finds the rubber band, and so he just goes so lovingly. This is Jason Alexander special here, just playing. It's like Paco. I love he adorable. He's like with such reverence, like he kind of jokingly he flings the rubber band at Paco, like, "Oh, you character, you. Oh, we love that Paco."
Right.
Just like, "Oh, Paco, you culinary scamp, you."
Culinary scamp.
Oh, Paco.
That's a great. I love that culinary scamp. Anyways,
and then basically George then takes another spoonful and he finds a rock in his soup. Paco, you 2 for 2. Paco. Nice. Jerry gives Paco like the thumbs up. Like, yeah, Paco, hilarious. Okay.
Oh God.
So before they order the hamburger on the stick, George contemplates. George contemplates keeping the check, which again Jerry voicing the obvious, voicing the logic here. I love it's like angel devil on the shoulder. That's what these two guys embody. George is always the devil, and Jerry's always the angel in this situation.
Of course.
He says, "Well, what if I kept the money?" And he says, maybe it's time I gave something back." And Jerry's like, "Why don't you start with giving back the check?"
And then George wants to be a kick-ass philanthropist.
Yes, he wants to be the kingpin. He secretly wants to be the kingpin.
People would come to him and beg, and he would help them out. And then they need a drive. Oh, God.
No, he would need a driver. He says, well, the first thing I'm going to need a driver. Oh god, which honestly that would be my first call if I were rich. Also, I would be a driver. Well, aside from covering all debts and all logical stuff, and then first impulse buy driver.
Sure,
So,
sure.
Elaine looks a mess with all that steam. Her mascara's running down, her hair's all flat and frizzed out. Basically, she's been caught in there with the steam. Kramer, importantly, bumps into the good Gwen.
Oh God.
Into the good version of Gwen here, kind of the Harvey Dent Gwen, so to speak.
Right.
By the way,
I've
Dan
seen
O'Keefe,
Jerry's girlfriend, and it was not you.
and Dan O'Keefe also he's a Batman fan because he knows Harvey Dent Two-Face. He's got it.
Of course.
But yeah, so importantly, Kramer establishes, oh no, I've seen Jerry with another girl who is not you. So that is established, and that begins kind of a plot line I really don't like. I don't like how Jerry's story pans out because I think it's like super contrived. Like, okay, really, she's gonna over the notion that his bizarre friend has seen and said, oh no, he's with another woman who's much more is much less pretty than you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's pretty convenient that I don't know. We're gonna get there at points. I hate this setup with this whole misunderstanding here.
I hear you.
So following that misunderstanding setup. Denim Vest stops by and he's put off by Elaine's appearance, which again, superficiality, folks, it's a two-way streak. Let's not.
Right.
So basically, he gives Elaine. Elaine mentions she needs the car that they put the number on. He says, "Well, I don't have it on me." Actually, he won't let her back to his apartment, but for some reason, and basically gives her the number of Azari brothers. Hello. Yo.
Yeah. I hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out for just a sec. Sorry.
All right, what? Okay, good now?
Yeah, you're good.
Making sure. So, the point is, Denim Vest gives Elaine a false number. He says, "Oh yeah, let me give you my number." And basically, what he writes down is Azari Brothers Moving, which is right behind Elaine. I love it. She instantly recognizes it.
Right.
And by the way, Azari Brothers is inside joke. I love all the inside jokes in Seinfeld. They have like a lot of writers named Spurs. These are like a writer or producer, Tom Azari. I think it's Tom Azari. Something Azari.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so meanwhile, we get a memo. I'm sorry, Dave,
No problem. Yeah, we George had a memo from accounting telling him that there's no such thing as the human fund.
Kruger got the memo.
Okay, I'm sorry. There's no such thing as a human fund, and George's response is like, well, there could be, but there isn't.
Again, like I love the fact that George is trying to pull one over on his dim-witted boss.
Right.
Just hoping that's going to be enough, but no. And then basically George pulls out his trump card again. George being the ultimate liar, he kind of pulls out his Grinch and then he told her a fib, and he thought it up quick, that sort of thing. He patted Kruger on his head and gave him a glass of water and said, something along those lines. That's a pretty. I know now. Now everyone's thinking, forget Benedict Cumberbatch as the Grinch and the Illumination film coming up. Let's have Jason Alexander as the Grinch.
Oh man.
No,
if it was just the voice, I could see it. I could kind of see it. Anyway.
Well, it is going to be just the voice.
Anyways.
Remember?
Yeah.
So basically, George goes to his trump card, and again, this is him accepting Festivus. Hello.
Oh no.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is George accepting Festivus back into his life through force measures.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically says I love that Kruger says he demands to know why he got a fake Christmas present. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care about the almost stealing $20,000.
Right.
You better have a darn good reason for giving me a fake Christmas present. Such an idiot.
I don't really celebrate Christmas, sir. I celebrate Festivus.
Festivus? I've never heard of that. Oh, but it
Cutting
exists.
out. I don't know why.
I think that might be you, Tiki.
You think so? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. Bit of freezing now and again. I didn't say anything. Then you said you heard me cut out. I don't know. I think that's you.
No. Oh, sorry.
Anyway, sorry. Basically uses Festivus, proving it. Says, "Oh, I can prove it, sir. I can prove Festivus exists if I have to." He says, "Well, you probably should."
Right.
So through that, now Kruger and George are both invited to Festivus, and oh boy, is it going to be a doozy.
Okay. So let's see. So George gets I'm sorry.
George and Kruger arrive at the house, and Frank is surprised, and basically, instantly Frank's like, "Okay, I'll welcome him. He's going to show. Let me show you the pole." Kruger shows Kruger the aluminum pole. Jerry and Elaine arrive. Yamahama. Yeah, basically in reference to Elaine's appearance, as she is not looking a little worse for wear. That is important. So basically, George says, "Well, George, why are you here?" He says, "Well, I'm embracing my roots, Jerry. You got caught with the 20 G's, didn't you?"
Yep.
Absolutely. Again, George is not making the holiday revelation. No, he's trying to get his butt out of the fire.
Exactly. Okay.
Let's see. So, yes, the track guys are coming by, and this, I think, Kramer, very poor judgment on Kramer's part. Again, two degenerate lowlifes who, again, Kramer can't really distinguish.
Right.
Kramer can't really distinguish the degenerate lowlifes from your average New Yorker, which, I mean, back in the 90s, really, come on, wasn't exactly uncommon. Point is, the track guys, basically, they called H&H Bagels because they were hoping to call Lane.
Oh God!
Did not work out. So basically, they ended up getting Kramer, and Kramer, because Kramer is now working there again because he had to use the bathroom, so he had to cave in.
Of course.
Which we find out in a moment, but that's why he got the call from those guys that he invited him. It's a Festivus miracle. Because he told him, "Oh yeah, I know Elaine. She's going to be at this Christmas party. Come on with me, guys. It's Festivus celebration." So Festivus Miracle, the runner of Festivus Miracles, being completely all Kramer's doing. We have a funny callback. I love they acknowledge that Kruger recognizes Kramer as one of his personas as Dr. Van Nostrand, and I won't bore you with the details. To say it was a scheme that George came up with to use Kramer to manipulate Kruger in some way, and he thinks he's an actual medical doctor named Dr. Van Nostrand. So let's see. So
it's time for the airing of grievances.
Oh God!
And Jerry Stiller just kind of starts right in. Kruger, my son tells me your company stinks.
You couldn't smooth the silk sheet if you had a hot date with a babe. And then and this is a constant there, Frank has. He loses his train of thought like that. He's got all these kind of strategic pauses on Jerry Stiller's performance, and he just kind of loses his place. He says, "I lost my train of thought."
And George, of course, is mortified by the whole thing.
Yeah, but then Gwen arrives. We have this dumb misunderstanding, which is, "Oh, here's the ugly girl this is that ugly girl who you've been seeing behind my back," or something like that. But for instance, the ugly girl that Kramer told me you were seeing. And then also, by the way, I just love a little Festivus miracle. It's a Festivus miracle. Jerry gives him a look of, I will backhand you like just that sort of look. It's pretty funny. Anyways, then Gwen, it's a dumb misunderstanding because again, one, you're seeing a girl who you're deeming ugly lady. It's not actual. You can't really. It's lady judge and ugly. I mean, it's hard for me to buy she wouldn't notice this thing about her appearance. I mean, women, everyone looks at themselves in the mirror. I don't buy she would notice this thing about her, which makes her look a little dumb. It makes her look naive, and it makes her look very judgmental towards Elaine. Which again, no, we have judgmental characters on the whole premise of this show. It just rubs me the wrong way,
I hear you.
But I do like the gag though. Jerry goes out to convince her, and we expect, oh, okay, well, Jerry's going to leave, and this is the usual way any other sitcom will play. But no, Jerry says he instantly gives up. Oh, yikes! Bad porcelain. I'm done. So that I did appreciate from again. Horrible misunderstanding, but again, funny punchline.
Okay.
Oh, so by the way, after Elaine's kind of nursing the fact she's been called out, hey, if you've been schwitzing, like in the Jewish sauna, and like Jewish terminology for being a sauna. Anyway, she's been like in the heat there. Basically, the guy behind her, she asked the Michael McKean-esque guy next to her.
Oh God!
I know, I keep calling him that because he's very much like a sleazy version of Squiggy from Lenny and Squiggy. That's what he is.
Right.
And basically he says, well, how'd my horse do? Had to be shot. And this scene, Tiki, was the hardest scene for them to shoot because it had so many blurs. Because, again, she knew the guy behind her who kind of was just looming behind her was sleazy guy who interviewed adult film stars. And basically she kept breaking every take and everyone else kept laughing.
Yeah, I've seen that footage. Yeah.
They lost it every time because she kept laughing and breaking everything. She has a very contagious laugh.
Of course.
So anyways, and then we have, Tiki, what do we have?
We have, let's see, the Festivus, the strength contest, whatever it's called.
The feats of strength.
The feats of strength. I'm sorry. My notes are just very non-specific this episode for some reason. I took really poor notes. I apologize.
So before the feat of strengths begin, again, he's targeting Kramer first, though, and Kramer then suddenly remembers. I think he just genuinely remembers. I don't think he's just trying to get an excuse out of here. I think he just kind of falls in that. Kramer doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. I think Kramer literally remembers, oh my God, I have work. Because then he reveals, I caved with the strike because I had to use the bathroom.
Oh God.
But also then he says, but Frank, I got to tell you, this whole holiday's like, as he says, it's Frank, this whole Festivus thing is also a little, basically a little out there for even Kramer.
Which is a great punchline to Kramer's storyline, considering how passionately into it Kramer was.
Yep, Kramer will get distracted, that's what happens. Okay, then Kruger instantly is breaking the flask out because Oka is insane. He's just drinking from the flask, and then he volunteers George. Because George is begging, anyone not? Let's get out of here. Anyway, so George is then volunteered, and it's yet again the matchup you've been waiting for. Not forget Batman v Superman. Forget Captain America v Iron Man. Forget all that. Forget Ant-Man v Spider-Man. Forget all of that. I'm talking about Costanza v. Costanza. I'm talking old generation versus new 90s generation. I'm talking Kings of Queens versus appearances in Curb Your Enthusiasm, a lot of voiceover work, and Seinfeld.
A lot of voiceover work. Gotta give it up for the voiceover work.
A lot of excellent voiceover. The Aladdin animated series, Return of Jafar, and of course,
if you've ever watched Duckman.
Of course, and Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah. Okay.
Point is, George versus Frank Costanza in the Feats of Strength yet again. It's the rematch of the century, folks. I mean, forget Tyson versus.
Oh God.
Forget the Tyson Holyfield match, and we're talking, George versus Frank. And I love that we do not see any of this. I love that we hear all this. We see again a lovely exterior, a Newhart-esque exterior, like it's snowing outside. Looks really nice. We hear Estelle instantly is by the way, Estelle Harris playing Estelle Costanza. In the back, you can take him, Georgie. Again, one from Mrs. Potato Head voice coming out.
Right, of course.
I love that we got so many Seinfeld stars in Toy Story, by the way. It tickles me so much every time I think about it. We have both this animated Zurg, we have Buzz Lightyear Star Command Zurg, we got Mrs.
Al.
Potato, we get Al, of course. We got so many great Toy Story characters from the show. Anyway, so then we have it's an exterior shot, and George is
quit
losing
crying
miserably.
and fight your father.
And as George is losing miserably, he's instantly crying, "Uncle, I can! It's the best Festivus ever!"
Oh God.
Okay, and Tiki, what's our post credit? What's our mid
credits
credits?
is Kramer making bagels and he's chewing gum. Oh God! And he drops the gum into the freaking dough. And he's trying to pull it out. He's making a mess, and then his supervisor's just like, "All right, you know what? That's enough. You're fired."
And Kramer knew this was an eventuality, so he's just like,
"Oh,
thank
you."
So genuinely, those thank you. Finally, I was wondering when you were going to fire me.
Really fun way to cap it off. Okay, and that was Seinfeld: The Strike. So, final thoughts, Dragon.
Again, Festivus is a fun one. Rewatching it again, the two elements of this one don't do it for me are apparent. And rewatching Seinfeld again, rewatching 9 especially. Again, Elaine is kind of the weak point. Does stick out to me. So Elaine and the payoff of Jerry's girlfriend were my low points of this. But I do really have a lot of love for it. It's very iconic.
Oh yeah.
Again, Mary again.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, again, we have literally an ice cream name. There was an ice cream named after. That's saying something.
I've seen clips of the Festivus episode. This is the first time I've watched it all the way through, and I was not disappointed. I mean, like you said, my big issue, I don't really have as big of an issue with the Elaine stuff. My big issue is with the Jerry stuff, but I think it can be forgiven. At the very least, they do some clever lighting stuff in that regard. I agree with you. I hate the way it resolves itself. But overall, this is a really funny episode. Of course, I think Jerry Stiller kind of steals the show away from everyone else.
Well, as always.
And Kramer, really funny Kramer stuff. Jason Alexander, great as the Scrooge of the episode. And yeah, really good stuff. Okay. And so I guess for the second to last time, Dragon, let's go over the tropes.
Okay, well, we have rejecting holiday traditions.
Mm-hmm. Jason Alexander is the Scrooge, making up your own holidays and kind of celebrating in your own unique ways.
We have kind of the anti-decorating for the holidays because he wants a very streamlined, tree without tinsel.
Right. We have the selfish
pole without tinsel. I mean,
or kind of like we have the reverse of the ultimate Christmas gift with George and the fake charity donations.
Oh yeah, we have a Hanukkah party at the beginning.
Of course, Jewish characters, of course.
Yep, we have Cranston mistletoe, which is even better than regular mistletoe. Nothing on this earth, short of Starburst going around with a mistletoe hat, beats Cranston mistletoe.
I hear you.
I mean, I'll take Cranston mistletoe again. That is perfect. That's
right.
Successful Cranston. That's what this whole show is. Successful Cranston.
Kind of we have family drama around the Christmas season.
Yep.
We have a childhood toy being ruined and that leading to something.
Yes. We have something taking place around really close to Christmas time. It's the 23rd. This all happens.
Of course. That's about all I can think of. You got anything else?
Well, again, this whole the rejection kind of George is our Scrooge because he rejects Festivus and then he accepts it through. Again, it's kind of it's an unconventional Christmas Carol.
Definitely.
Unconventional Christmas Carol, and of course, working around the holidays with the whole H&H Bagel.
Of course, that's a good point.
I think that sums it up pretty
much less heartfelt than the Mary Tyler Moore version of that, but still.
Yeah, you don't have exactly. I don't think Kruger's going to pull a Lou Grant on Costanza here. He just throws him under the bus, saying, "Hey, what about George?" Because he's been insulted by Frank Costanza. Hey, what about George? As he drinks his flask.
No, I was actually thinking more of the fact that that fucking Kramer can't take the 23rd off for Festivus. Could you imagine like a whole episode revolving around Kramer being heartbroken about that? Okay.
They have like the Seinfeld music, but it's sadder notes. Like.
All right. On that note, folks. Thanks for joining us. Much like this show and this Christmas special, we like to kind of take a unique approach to Christmas specials. We like to see not only what the tropes are, but how the tropes get subverted and how the tropes kind of are played around with and meshed together and melded into different and more unique tropes and more Festivus tropes and tropes.
But Tiki, I have to ask in the spirit of Festivus, what do we call this process? What do we call it? Could someone tell me what we call this process? Before I lost my train of thought. Tiki, what were we talking about?
We're talking about putting the mistletoe underneath the microscope next time on Christmas in July. La 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 la.